Okay, so Detroit lost to Chicago in embarrassing fashion. They blew a 17-point lead to Mitchell Trubisky. A lot of people are putting this blame on Patricia. I don't think it's actually his fault that much. I think that, listen, I've never been one to hold off criticizing Patricia. The whole reason I don't think the Lions are going to make the playoffs is because of Patricia. I don't think this game was his fault too much. I actually think you can maybe criticize a few things here and there, but I think there was a lot of things that went wrong, and making Patricia the scapegoat, I think, is not a very smart idea. I said on my podcast that I thought that you do have to put some blame on Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, he made some mistakes later down the stretch. He did. Listen, Matt Stafford, I think, is a great quarterback. Anyone who says it's his fault that the Lions lose games is wrong. But you can definitely put some of the blame on this collapse on him, without a doubt. I already know people are not going to, like this take. I already know people are going to hit the dislike button. If that's what you want to do, that's what you can do. But I still got to be honest here. Look at this one. It's going to be zone coverage. And those are the two routes on the top of the screen. As you see the route that's going further, it's going to get into a gap in coverage. Stafford is going to look in that direction, see if he can make a throw and try to, get through that gap in coverage. And while this window isn't going to be wide open by any means, Stafford does miss the throw. Again, not wildly. This isn't anything disastrous. Missing one throw, that's not a big deal. But again, it's the kind of thing where there's a fine line between great and good. And to me, Stafford was only good in this game. He had a chance to be great, and he wasn't able to close it out. He also did have one big mistake. And listen, I know people are going to say, well, this is the only real one big mistake. He had a few missed throws, the last one I showed wasn't the only example. There were a couple more down the stretch. Not a ton, but there were a few. This was the biggest mistake. This is just one that can't happen, where it's going to be a cover one robber, meaning that the safety is going to drop down towards the middle of the field, and they call it a cover one robber because he can, rob the ball. He can get in front of a route without a quarterback realizing it. You're going to have a receiver run over the middle, and so this is actually perfect, kind of the perfect situation for Chicago, but the problem is that, people know about cover one robbers now. This is something that you should expect. And for Stafford, he should, if he wants to throw this ball in this direction, make sure that a safety isn't going to crash down to try and take away the route. And look, right when the ball is snapped, you notice that, there is an opening. So I understand why Stafford is looking in this direction, but he should have taken a peek at the safeties beforehand. This is just kind of a mistake. And if this was a young player making this mistake, I wouldn't really be that concerned. But again, I hold Stafford to a higher standard. That's kind of my point, is that I expect Stafford to play like an MVP candidate because that's what he can play like. That's his typical, not just his potential. That's just what he is on a typical day in, day out basis. He was not that. And so again, I know it's unfair. I know it's unfair to expect greatness from him every week, but that's kind of what the Lions need. He makes this throw, doesn't make the right read. Ball gets tipped up and intercepted. So that part is a bit unlucky, but it was also a dangerous pass even without the tip. So it's a mistake, but also I got to be fair. I'm not going to just completely criticize Stafford. There is a lot to criticize. For one thing, for the life of me, I don't know why Detroit did not run play actions down the stretch. So, down the stretch, they didn't want to get rid of the passing game, which makes sense. You can't just run the ball every time, especially because Chicago was really going all out to stop the run. So, if they were to run this play, like the one you see on your screen, where it's a play action with a receiver running over the middle, this probably would have worked out really well. And watch how, right when this ball is snapped, you notice, look, Stafford is just now handing the ball off. So if this was play action, this would be around when he turns around to look for a throw. And there's a receiver wide open if this was going to be a play action, and especially because he probably would have cut over the middle, making him even more open. And if you look at the Chicago front seven, they are so far in right now. They are trying to stop a potential run. This would have been a perfect time for play action. And I didn't just, cherry pick this play. There was a lot of these. It ends up only going for a couple yards, but pretty much every running play was looking like this. And for the life of me, I don't know why you don't run play action there. It makes no sense to me. So Stafford, he deserves some blame. It's fair to say that. It's okay. He's still a great player. He's still fantastic. I know Lions fans feel like Stafford gets disrespected a lot. They feel that way because he gets disrespected a lot. But at the same time, it is fair to say, hey, you know what? He could have been better there. That's okay. We trust him to be better in future games. What are the long-term concerns? Well, I actually don't know if there are that many. I mean, if we look at the defense, again, this is kind of why I say it's not Patricia's fault, is because I actually thought that the defense was fine. Just that it weirdly, all of a sudden, Mitchell Trubisky turned into Aaron Rodgers in the fourth quarter. Like, that's legitimately a lot of what happened. I mean, you could nitpick some stuff, but really what happened was that, for one thing, they could do something like this where it's zone coverage, and they can run, they have 3 receivers on one side of the screen. They're all running relatively deep routes. This is tough against zone coverage because it's hard to cover everybody if there's, if you stack guys on one side as opposed to man where you can just move another guy over. Now you're kind of in a tough situation if you're the Lions where, the whole point of zone is you kind of want to be even on every side and take away every part of the field. So if you load up on one side of the field, it can create some problems. And as you see, there is going to be a receiver who gets pretty easily open because of the zone coverage. It was also just a really well-ran route and a good throw from Trubisky. And, for Detroit, they're kind of thinking, okay, you know what? It's obvious passing situations right now. We can just run a lot of man coverage. We don't have to worry too much about trying to stop the run necessarily, trying to play zone. Let's just start playing some, let's start playing some man. This is a good plan. And honestly, the fact that Chicago was able to be successful against zone coverage, that was kind of really opening the door. Because honestly, I think the biggest adjustment that was made, the biggest difference that was made, it wasn't really, I didn't think it was, I didn't think it was Patricia turtling or Patricia being bad. I thought a lot of it was just Nagy finally unleashed Mitchell Trubisky, which I know sounds silly, but when you actually give him opportunities, he's at least a lot more valuable doing that than he is just handing the ball off every play. You can get more yards this way. And one thing he's able to do is something like this, where, okay, so the Lions are playing man coverage. So Trubisky, right when this ball is snapped, there's going to be immediate pressure, despite it's kind of like a delayed 4-man rush where 3 go, but then there's a delay. But, there's pressure right away. Trubisky actually gets out of it, and there's a face mask on this play, which, that's unfortunate. And for the Lions, you would have loved to get the sack there. But the reason why I'm showing this play is because now that it's man coverage, there's just not people in every single section of the field. So for Trubisky, he can run with the football. That's what he's going to do, and he is able to pick up a good amount of yards just running because of the man coverage. And that's something he was able to do, and it kind of created this real conundrum for the Lions where they couldn't really stop Trubisky through in zone. And then with man, he could run with the football. So it created a lot of problems. At the end of the day, one of the biggest things that that Patricia got criticized for was he would never blitz the 3-man rushes. He's supposed to be this defensive guru. It did not work out too well, especially last year. But this year, I thought that he actually called probably his best game as a head coach. Where, he was dialing up blitzes. He had the best game plan, I should say, where he was dialing up blitzes. When he had 3-man rushes, they were picking their spots wisely, so they were still getting pressure. But sometimes they just got beat. Like this one. It's a blitz. It's going to be a 5-man rush, but even Johnny Tavai, he's going to fake as though he's rushing the passer, then he's going to drop back into coverage. Jimmy Graham is going to run over the middle. Jimmy Graham was getting heavily criticized. I certainly criticized him earlier when he got signed because I was like, I don't understand the contract. But he's going to just dominate his one-on-one matchup here. Watch how open he gets. Trubisky's able to avoid pressure, and then, Graham just able to get into the end zone for a touchdown. Just a good play by Graham, and it's like, that's really what it came down to at the end of the day. Really, when the Lions players needed to make plays, they weren't able to. What ended up being the game-winning touchdown was another example of it, where this is going to be the play. It's, again, going to be man coverage. So listen, Patricia, for all his faults, I feel like sometimes in the past he would try to win the game himself with his schemes. This time he's putting the game in his players' hands, which I do think works. I think it's smart. This is what you have to do. And I just think at the end of the day, Chicago made better plays. Anthony Miller, he's going to be the guy on this one where it's going to be, you have your receiver on the outside of the screen, kind of it's a setup route. He just running a couple steps, doesn't do much. Miller runs a deep route towards the sideline. The whole point is to get Miller open in a one-on-one matchup, and it's going to work out. Miller does get a little bit open, and Trubisky just makes a perfect throw. Listen, you can complain all you want about that, but that's the right play call. That's the right defense. Trubisky just played really well in the fourth quarter. I know it's weird, but that's what happened. Obviously, people are going to point to DeAndre Swift dropping a ball, but schematically, there's not really too much to talk about that. He should have caught the ball. It is what it is. I think there are real things to be concerned about if you're a Lions fan. For me, it's the fact that they couldn't really get consistent pressure unless they were doing something creative with their blitz packages, which I think is concerning. You would like to see them just be able to put 4 men out, do something traditional, and still get pressure. Didn't really happen too much, which is definitely a bit concerning. But I think that at the end of the day, let's not necessarily press the panic button just yet. I actually think there's signs for optimism here, despite the fact that this ending was definitely atrocious. And listen, I should also be very clear. I think they should have fired Matt Patricia last offseason. I said that. I don't think that this game changes my mind in any way. But I also think that I don't think that anybody should have been in the I think we should keep Patricia camp and then leave that camp to I think we should fire Patricia just simply because of this game. That's just my opinion. Maybe you guys disagree. Let me know. I think it should be an interesting talking point. So definitely let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts about this one? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.